Hey, you okay team? Welcome back to a new video. So today we're going to be looking at two kidnapped SAS operators. They got compromised, they've been captured, and apparently the SAS went a little bit rogue, went in and rescued them. So we're going to be looking at that today. It says actual footage. I don't know if there'll be any actual footage of the UKSF raid. I'll be very surprised, but it might be. The story does sound very real to me. You know, they do a very secretive and classified missions in hostile environments, so the chances of two operators being captured is very real. So let's get into it, see what it's all about. Remember to like, subscribe and turn the notifications bell on, and we'll see what it's all about. Let's go.
Monday, September 19th, 2005. Two British operatives conducting covert surveillance in the hostile city of Basra, Iraq, are taken prisoner of war after being compromised by a group of corrupt Iraqi police following a tense shootout turned car chase. But little did their captors know that the two men were special operators of the British Army's Tier 1 unit, the 22nd SAS, unleashing a hellish response from their pissed off teammates. And after being given explicit orders to stand down, the SAS unit denied their leadership and executed a rogue hostage rescue mission.
I can definitely see that happening. If you take two operators, I can definitely see, you know, the rest of the regiment going, right, we need to get our blokes back. What are we going to do about it? I can't see them just standing down. If they got told to stand down, they're going to do everything possible to save their mates at the end of the day and colleagues. It's the same as any soldier or anyone. So let's get into it. Let's continue.
2 years following the invasion of Iraq, and 1 year despite the capture of Saddam Hussein, in 2005, Iraq was becoming as hostile as ever, and the small southern city of Basra was no exception. As September 5th of that same year, two British soldiers would be killed in Basra by a roadside IED, and only 2 days later, on September 7th, 16 Basran civilians would perish following a car bomb.
So very true. I never did Iraq. I went to Afghan, but 2005, 2006, 2007 were very dangerous times in those countries. A lot was going on, especially with the soldiers out there. So very hostile.
Given this cluster of violence, US and coalition forces began to zero in on Basra and quickly learned the city was run by an incompetent and corrupt police chief linked to the Mahdi terror cell, who British SBS and SRR commandos targeted during a critical counterinsurgency campaign. This police chief was a crucial link for the notorious British intelligence agency, MI6, who quickly chartered a mission dubbed Operation Hathor, of which they assigned two special operators from the Tier 1 unit, the 22nd SAS.
So I remember this happening a lot as well. In Afghan, you'd get a lot of police chiefs who were basically on side with you, but then they were also talking to the enemy. So in Afghan, they were talking to the Taliban, or they were part of the Taliban, but they would also feed you information as well. And basically, they just wanted to make money on either side just to suit themselves. It's very hard to trust a lot of them out there. And it's the same for Iraq.
The British equivalent of Delta Force. Their objective, to keep eyes and ears on the police chief within the city of Basra. These special operators, Campbell and Griffith, were to dress in native garbs and fully embed themselves within the city. Their mission was to gather intelligence and perform a wreck by tailing the chief and his officers while operating an inconspicuous Iraqi taxicab. And by September 19th, the mission was a go. Campbell and Griffith entered the city of Basra and positively ID'd the chief. However, during their tail, the two were forced to merge into an Iraqi checkpoint. The men attempted to skate through, but the officers, recognizing their British accents, quickly became hostile. The officers...
So this is very common. Obviously, operators, a lot of SRR do this, obviously, but they do it in the SAS and SBS, where they go do covert surveillance and actually have to embed into the locals. You know, how tough must that be? Dressing up, growing your beard, you know, having to do everything possible to blend in and look like a complete other nationality. The only thing is recognising their British accents. I know they do language courses and they should be fluent. I'd be very surprised if they pulled up to a checkpoint speaking English, unless they just obviously didn't have the accent on point. But they got compromised by the looks of it, so we'll see.
Ordered the operators out of the car, at which point Campbell and Griffith simultaneously opened fire, killing two officers at the checkpoint. They hit the gas and made a run for the city, but their gutless taxi cab made evasion nearly impossible.
Yeah, I bet.
They hopped out on foot and were quickly cornered by an angry mob and taken into custody by police.
The capture. Let's have a look.
Basra police sent photographs of Campbell and Griffith to a popular Iraqi news outlet celebrating their capture. Meanwhile, the bureaucrats back in London were taken by surprise and slow to act. However, in the city of Baghdad, news reached the SAS's Special Forces Support Group in the form of a TV broadcast depicting the men beaten and subdued, and in queue for capital punishment. The SAS team took immediate action. 20 operators of A Squadron hightailed it to Basra and began plotting out a sophisticated rescue mission. SAS operators closer to the region, on the outskirts of Basra, vectored a Predator UAV and began maintaining 24-hour surveillance on the prison. Meanwhile, British infantry and armored units were dispatched to surround the prison.
Yeah, so something very common is obviously getting the Predator up, getting a UAV up, and getting eyes on as best as possible, so they can see. So
British infantry and armored units were dispatched to surround the prison, and an irate gathering of locals ensued. The protesters, fueled by anti-coalition sentiments, grew increasingly agitated, and the British government took advantage of the chaos by authorizing the immediate rescue of the operators inside. As the SAS teams from Baghdad arrived in the area of Basra and began their loadout, the protesters' agitation.
So basically, loadout, prepping their kit, sorting out their admin, getting battle ready.
The crowds pelted the British forces with stones and Molotov cocktails, resulting in a Warrior IFV catching on fire and causing injuries to 3 soldiers. And with resistance from both protesters and militants, the streets of Basra quickly turned into a battleground. Fearing further escalations, the British government issued immediate orders for the SAS to stand down and the infantrymen to retreat, leaving Campbell and Griffith stranded and in the hands of the Basra police. And with time running out, the pair fought to keep themselves alive by giving their captors just enough information without compromising any real secrets, a skill set SAS operators obtained.
So yeah, you don't go through much training, but they do SEER training on selection, which teaches them to do that, how to deal with interrogation.
Far back as selection. Meanwhile, the British government began to take a more diplomatic. Their mission took an unexpected turn when they too were captured and held within the confines of the prison.
Okay.
And to make matters worse, simultaneously, the Iraqi police opted to hand over Campbell and Griffiths to the Iraqi militia. They were disguised once again in local garbs and then placed in the trunk of a police car destined for a nearby safe house. Unbeknownst to the Iraqi authorities, the UAV overhead tracked the relocation, concerned that their fellow operators might face execution at the hands of the Iraqi militia. The SAS, against explicit orders to stand down, defied their command and decided to take matters into their own hands.
The rescue.
The British government authorized conventional forces to conduct a raid on the police station and free the captured officers. The SAS took advantage of this window and conducted a simultaneous raid of their own on the safe house.
It's a good idea.
By 9
Simultaneous attack.
Warrior IFVs and Challenger tanks breached the prison walls, enabling infantry units and a select few SAS operators from A Squadron to stage a swift rescue of the officers, as the remainder of A Squadron launched their assault on the safe house. The team flooded the building through numerous entry points, imposing textbook hostage rescue tactics, disorienting the captors and controlling the violence.
Yeah, something they're very good at. We all know the SAS are absolutely brilliant at building clearance, CQB, going in, doing hostage rescue, clearing rooms, kicking doors in. That is what they do, and they are very good at it.
As they made their way through the compound, Campbell and Griffith were nowhere in sight, leading the team to fear that the pair were moved once again. However, a further sweep into the compound revealed Campbell and Griffith handcuffed in a bathroom and still alive.
It's good.
The team provided medical attention and extracted the men from the compound. By all accounts, the mission unfolded seamlessly and without a hitch, including the infantry assault and rescue of the British officers within the Basra prison. Eyewitness reports claimed over 150 prisoners escaped during the assault, many of whom were falsely imprisoned.
So that happened a lot as well, didn't it?
False investigation into both Griffith and Campbell's capture and the subsequent events which followed. The Ministry of Defense initially attempted to deny that the unauthorized rescue mission ever took place, but later retroactively sanctioned the mission, arguably due to its success.
So what we got here. British tank that stormed Basra jail to free undercover soldiers. So some sort of headline there. And then like they said, that the mission got sanctioned. If that had gone absolutely tits up, there would have been a lot of people in trouble and it definitely wouldn't have got sanctioned. But because it went well, they're happy to sanction it and say, yeah, go ahead, even though they weren't meant to be there. It wasn't actually a sort of sanctioned mission. The two guys were pretty much on their own. That was the whole point of the mission. But luckily it went well.
1 year later, on December 25th of 2006, as part of Operation Sinbad, British troops from the 1st Battalion, the Staffordshire Regiment, raided the Basra police station once again, killing 7 armed Shia militants and freeing 127 prisoners, illegally detained and on the path to execution.
That's good. And I think Staffordshire Regiment, in 2007, a lot of regiments were amalgamated. I believe they're now part of the Mercian Regiment. So if you are interested in the Staffordshire Regiment, they are now part of the Mercian Regiment, I believe. I'll have to double check that, but in 2007, a whole load of infantry regiments were amalgamated. That's when like the rifles and that were made. I remember it happening when I was at Harrogate.
They then demolished the prison entirely. In the end, the SAS stayed true to and exemplified their motto:
who dares wins. What a motto.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this...
So really interesting video. It's a great story to watch and listen to, isn't it? It's just the SAS, they just get it done. They are known as door kickers. It is something that they would do, and any soldier would want to do. If your colleagues, your mates had been captured, you're going to want to get them back as best as possible. It's just that the SAS is most probably that regiment who could go rogue, as they say, who could defy orders, disobey orders, and go on a mission and do it. Most probably and get away with it. It's just what they're doing, what they're good at. There's another infantry sort of company, battalion, they most probably wouldn't be able to do it. But being the SAS, it's most probably believable that it's something that they could do. I don't know if there's any actual footage in that. It says there is, but I don't think there actually was. Maybe a little bit from the infantry surrounding the Basra prison, but none of the UKSF. Let us know what your thoughts are. Give us a comment with what you want to see next and what you thought of the video, and I'll see you soon.